Hello, lovelies. As you know, all month long, we are celebrating all of the delicious flavors that autumn has to offer. And today we are doing something totally classic. We are making some spiced pumpkin bread that is oh so delicious and really, really easy to make. This has easily become one of Elle's favorite recipes just in time for the season, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Now for this recipe, we are going to get started by mixing up our dry ingredients first. So I've got some flour here in my bowl. I'm using all-purpose flour, but you could swap in some whole wheat flour if you wanted to in this recipe, definitely no problem. And then to that, I am going to be adding a lot of beautiful spice. So I've got a combination here of some cinnamon, ground ginger, a little bit of nutmeg, some cloves, and some allspice. This is also the same combination of spices used in classic pumpkin pie spice. So if you have pumpkin pie spice already in your pantry, you could just use a few teaspoons of that instead. Next to this, I am going to add some baking powder so we get nice lift in our bread. And I'm also going to be adding just a little bit of salt, which helps to enhance all of the flavors in our amazing pumpkin bread. Next, we're just gonna come in here with our whisk. We wanna make sure all of those spices are really well incorporated. We also wanna make sure that our baking powder is evenly distributed so that our entire pumpkin bread has the same amount of lift throughout. Now we are going to turn our attention to our wet ingredients. So in a nice big mixing bowl here, I have got some room temperature butter, and to that I am adding some sugar. Now I'm using plain white sugar in this recipe, but you could swap in brown sugar if that's what you had on hand. It's pretty flexible that way. At this point, I'm just going to get in here with my hand mixer and beat the butter and sugar until they're really nicely combined. Once those are creamed together, we can go ahead and add the rest of our wet ingredients. So I have got some pumpkin headed in here. Of course, this is pumpkin bread after all. Now in a recipe like this, I always prefer to make life easier by using canned pumpkin puree, which can usually be found at most supermarkets this time of year. But if you have trouble finding it, you can also use traditional cooking pumpkins. You just want to cut them in half, remove their seeds, and then roast them up until they're soft and tender. Then you just remove the flesh, give it a quick mash, and you can add it straight into the bowl. To this, I'm also going to be adding a splash of cream. And then I've got 2 eggs headed in here. I'm just gonna crack them right into the bowl. Living life on the edge a little bit. Usually I do not recommend cracking your eggs straight into the bowl because you can get shells in. If you're not feeling very confident about your kitchen skills, don't hesitate to break your eggs into a separate bowl before they get added into your big bowl. Next, we're gonna get some molasses in here. So molasses just has the most incredible autumn flavor. And it's just super tasty. It's really easy to find this time of year. You usually use molasses in, say, ginger cookies. So we're gonna be having a very similar sort of flavor composition to this amazing bread. My final step here, of course, is just adding a splash of vanilla, because when it comes to baking, I feel like vanilla should always be included. I'm just going to use my hand mixer once again to beat all of that together until it's really well mixed. Then I'm going to pour my dry ingredients into my wet ingredients, and I'll give this one more quick mix just so it's really nicely incorporated. What you'll see is that we have this gorgeous batter that smells absolutely amazing. You will not believe it. Already my kitchen totally smells like the fall, which is one of my favorite parts of the season. And our final step, guys, is just transferring our batter into our loaf pan. Now I've greased my loaf pan really, really well because I don't want anything to stick. And I'm just going to pour my batter in. And then I'm just going to smooth it out on top and get it into a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for between 60 and 75 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center of your loaf comes out clean. That is an important sign to know that it is fully cooked through and ready to be enjoyed. I know after all that baking, just how hard it can be to wait to dig into this, but I definitely recommend waiting 5 to 10 minutes before removing it from your loaf pan and slicing it up. I love serving this pumpkin bread with a little bit of butter. I just think it takes it right over the top. And honestly, guys, I really hope you love this one as much as I do. If you give it a try for yourselves, please always tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo. You know how much I love seeing your kitchen creations. This yummy recipe, like all of our yummy recipes, is being featured on healthymealplans.com, our amazing meal planning site, so you can find it there. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.